Why use 3D models for character LoRA creation? I think it allows for more refined control for anatomy. Specifically, I tried different types and it all worked much better than trying anything else. It also works for not safe for work. And in this case, of course, I used bikinis for female and no bikinis for men. I'm using Flux 1 here, not Flux 2. Flux 1 just runs faster and I have everything already prepared for that workflow. And you can recreate it. There are no secrets. I will show how it works in this video. However, if you want to save yourself time, you can get it all on my Patreon and the link is in the description. If you're new to ComfyUI, I have a free introduction to ComfyUI. You can find out how to install it and how to set it all up. And what is LoRA? LoRA is a low-rank adaptation. So we are fine-tuning a big model like Flux, but Flux is like 10 gigabytes, 20 gigabytes model that we are fine-tuning by just 80 megabyte LoRA model to produce consistent characters over time in each image. We have to train the LoRA, and for that we need to create our own training data set, and everyone has different ways of doing that. Since I have a background of being a 3D artist, I applied my 3D skills. I'm inside Blender and I have this character. You can use any other character. This is one I created and supply with all my files. I have a little rig here so I can move the arms around. I have to go into the pose mode at the top panel. And sometimes what I will do is I'll push the arms down. So I'm pushing the arms down so they don't spread out too much and I can then put them into a square more easily. Okay, so model doesn't have to be detailed, like hair here is really just a blob. Or say if you want to change proportions, I can really do something like switch to object mode, press Shift A, find look for a sphere. Okay, we want to do bigger breasts, we get them. It can be quite malleable depending on your requirements. Whatever you want to do, bigger butt, bigger shoulders. The only thing I do, I turn off the preview of the controls, and it is better to have some kind of shading, so I'll switch to this preview viewport shader, kind of standard viewport shader, and this gives a bit more information for depth models to read the depth. You can go one step further and you can start actually doing full lighting. I kind of got away with just doing like screenshots of this and putting them into Photoshop and making squares. And then I will do the side view and I will do a square from here. I will do a square from the front. And I'll put together a character sheet, which I also supply in my file, so you don't have to do it yourself if you don't want to. And that character sheet will be our base to produce everything else. This is the first main network. Let's talk about it all in detail. So first we have a folder load image batch node, and this is a folder direction that goes into the increments and picks all the images there. In this case, the first image, the character sheet image it picks is three females. I put it together in Photoshop. I did screenshots of 3D objects. The thing about, say, Flux, it actually assigns the same anatomy and same face to automatically, which is great. And then we have depth anything version 2. We can go to model manager and look for that depth anything. You can see here, I click here to download it and then just refresh your browser and then get it from the drop down menu. It will be put in a correct folder. I also use a high resolution, 1536. I do the resizing here. I basically upscale the images because images I get here, you can see on this preview node, they are at 1000 pixels. I make it bigger. I found that at 1536, this is like the biggest I can make on Flux, because for Flux 1, if I go bigger, it starts to worsen the quality. And then I have the preview of how it read the image, how it read the 3D models and what we got on the outside. We just need a kind of like a basic image. So of course, this is not super high fidelity, but it doesn't have to be. And we need something fairly blurry because it gives more creativity to the Flux, to AI models. However, having this particular silhouette and having these shapes, this is where 3D comes handy if we want to have a very particular control over the anatomy. And let's say if you make hips bigger, shoulders bigger, breasts bigger, or head smaller, hair longer. Well, hair kind of jumps here and there, but we can play with hair as well. This is pretty faithful to this anatomy. That's why I was using this 3D generation for a lot of some of my client work, because that was very, very handy in that regard. So I'm passing this resolution from 1536 to this get image size that goes into the emulated image node. That then goes into our Xlab sampler, and I will talk about it a bit later. I only define the resolution here once, and I deal with squares, so that then is passed to the latent image, so I don't have to retype every time. For example, if I want to have faster generations, I can just go to an 1024, and it will be passed across down the line, down the pipe, without much issues. And then we've created this depth image, and it goes into the apply control flux control net node. This is a part of the Xlabs custom nodes pack, which you can download, and it has to be processed. So we got the image, we got the image here. So this is just pixels. Those pixels, they need to be processed. And for that processing, we need to use a control net to read and kind of understand it. In this case, I'm using this Flux depth control net version 3. This one, we can also go and look up Flux depth control. And you can see here, it's Xlab Flux depth control net, 1.5 GB in size. You can also download it. Then reload your browser, refresh your browser, and it will be in this drop-down menu. The strength is a very important parameter. I worked both with SDXL and Flux. I found that with Flux, keeping the strength fairly low gives better anatomy, better realism. If I push it to 80, it will try to adhere to the shape more, but it can also give glitchy results. So I didn't really like that. Then that goes into the Xlab sampler, where we are mixing our control net conditioning, which goes into control condition. We have our empty latent image, which is our basically empty canvas, our noise that we're going to transform to the final image. And we have conditioning. Conditioning is basically prompts. And also we have our, main model. This is, I'm using here Flux 1 dev model. Prompted network group, I have dual clip LoRA. This is clip models. I used to be puzzled about these clip models. Why do we need them? But they kind of really help to guide the image generation, and by deciphering this prompt into vectors, every token becomes a vector and helps to generate the final image. You can see here I have a pretty big description of a person. That one I just got from ChatGPT, and yeah, this is a simple black bikini. You can go without bikini and on your own risk, not on YouTube here. Then we have Flux guidance set at 3. You don't want to be more than that. You can start to burn the image, and the negative prompt basically doesn't really matter. I can remove it. It will still generate the same stuff. Flux doesn't need negative prompts. It's more like a legacy thing. So then we have our Xlab sampler. And by the way, if you pause, you will be able to read a lot more here, a lot more information. Noise seed is set at increments. So every new image is a new increment. It's easy for me to count how many images were generated. I don't like this huge values in trillions and trillions of numbers. I prefer something small. The steps, the quality, I found 25 for me is good for the amount of time. They say recommended 50 is the maximum you want to go up to. If you go above 50, it's no longer really improving that much. It just takes more time to generate, and everything else is basically don't want to touch. Then it goes into the VAE decode, variational autoencoder, decoding the latent space into pixels. And for the decoder, I'm using this Flux decoder, that one is pretty small. Luckily, if I look up for it, it's only 300 megabytes. You can download it, refresh your browser, and pick it from the drop-down menu. Then it goes into the image compare node, and I can see before and after. So in this case, you can see it's funnily enough showed back of the girl. It happens, so usually it will be front. I like the quality, this is pretty cool quality. You can see the face is actually staying the same. The hands are not that great, but not too bad as well. And this is why I went for high resolution, 1536 by 1536 pixels, because that gives more resolution to hands, so we can get a better look. Less pixels on the hands, the hands get more AI-ish and worse. Honestly, I've tried other approaches. For me, gives very realistic, very nice looking anatomy. I really found it super useful. I generate 60 images, and I pick girls that look, or guys that look similar. And that is my training set to pass for LoRA training. And then I have my image saved nodes, and that goes from the image decode, VAE decode. And I just use this was node suite saving because it has... So I can change to JPEGs if I need to. I can change the output folder. pretty self-explanatory there. So this is the main pipeline I use to create character sheets, and the next Comfy network is about how to apply LoRA. I do split the figures from the image into multiple images for training to help Flux to process it as individual people. I did use Photoshop to do this, but if you don't have Photoshop, there is a Photopea that's a free online editor. It's a bit of a manual process. There's probably a way to automate it, but I just didn't have time to address that. To create a LoRA, you need to register on FAL.AI. Then, and I will give the link in the description. Then you need to go and look for Flux LoRA Fast Training like this. And you need to go click here, and you need to drag and drop all the files or the images that you have into this input. And I already put all the images here. I think you can deal with as little as 5-6 images. Then we need to put our trigger word, and the trigger word is something unique. So I do all caps Asian CH123. So in case you just type in Asian in the prompt field, it might not pick up the actual character that you've created. It will just pick up any type of Asian person. So you want to make it like basically more like a password, and that we will be using in the prompt field, and you will be saying like Asian CH123 walking on the street in a red dress, or click here on more settings and steps. Some people recommend to go with 2000 steps for high quality. However, it double the costs of the whole process. And I found for myself that 1000 is good enough, and it will cost us $2 for the training run to do. Then you click start and it will run, and we just need to wait about 5 to 10 minutes for that to finish. And you can see here, I have these 2 files I've created. Each one will have this nonsensical name, and let me demonstrate. I'll show files, and you can see here, PyTorch LoRa rate, save tenses. You've downloaded about 85 megabytes. Definitely want to rename that. I usually put trigger word into the name of the file, so then it's really easy to understand. I usually also put the name of the particular model that was used, so then you don't get lost when you have like 50 LoRAs and all that stuff, and dealing with multiple different models, Flux, Stable Diffusion. The same thing here with the red dude. I call him red dude 123. Same idea. I used this particular trigger word. You can also go and run Inference. You basically can create images right inside FAL without using ComfyUI. Here you have to pay, say, 4 cents for the Flux image. I press on Inference, and I already have my trigger there, and then I just need to type in sitting in a red dress on sofa. I can have a much more complicated prompt than that. I usually run it through ChatGPT. I'll get like 50 prompts and then run them. And let's click run. And there we go. It says how long it took, 16 seconds, this price. And I use my red dude, same thing. In white pajama, drinking coffee in the kitchen. I can see this image. It's a bit uncanny. The hands are weird, and he's kind of sinking in the kitchen table. But you can see the anatomy is there, right? So that's the kind of thing, the key here. Great to get undressed and naked models first, and then dress them up, because then the anatomy will be a lot more consistent from my experience. Then I have this simple network actually where I'm using the LoRAs to create the image. So I have the same prompter network, the same clip models, and I am using the Asian CH123 that's passing along to Xlab sampler. And then I have the Flux Dev as my main low diffusion model. Then I have LoRA standard node. And you can see here, I have this file trigger word Asian CH123, and I name it specifically so it's easy for me to understand what it is. And then it goes into the Xlab sampler, which I talked about before, same stuff, and everything here is the same, except just the empty latent image here, keep it at 1024, not 1536. I could probably go 1536, but I was just running fast image generation. And yeah, I got pretty much the goal I had, so it's pretty consistent. One little thing I wanted to add, I have this node which is available for free on GitHub. I created it and I published it on GitHub. I also made a particular video how to work with this. I will link it in the description. It allows us to run like as many prompts as you want. So every line is a new prompt. So if I want to generate 100 images, I just copy paste it from ChatGPT. I then apply the trigger word here, and it can be different LoRAs, different trigger words. And then I run this, say overnight if it's locally, or it can be much faster if you run it through FAL. And I use this concatenate node. So this AZNCH123 is in front of every new line. So every line is my prompt. Very easy stuff here. Like I use this node that I created myself everywhere. So yeah, it's free of charge or anything. Like, it's all available. You have all the links in the description.